This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning. But we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 16th of July, 2019, and I am Tuju.
I am Tuju.
And I am DM, your host. In case you missed the headlines today, here they are. The Daily Nation. Arunga faces 25 years in prison. The Standard. Schools crisis as new intake rules cause... The Star. MPs want to get rid of 47 women reps.
Yeah, I say let's start with the Daily Nation.
What do you think?
It's a new story.
This is such a heavy headline, a heavy story. In my view, I think it's being given too much airtime.
Really?
I think so.
I would completely disagree. I think that by the time you become a murderer, whether guilty or innocent at whatever point it may be, you deserve to have your face on the headlines.
I agree with you to the extent that, or not to the extent that, this
Hi,
story...
welcome to the show.
Hi to it. This story has layers beyond crime.
Yeah.
There are layers here of some underworld happenings, layers of mental illness. And so I feel that it's a family issue that is being brought on the national
A family issue.
Yes.
DM, she's accused of killing her child.
No, she's accused of lying about
being
her husband.
Being complicit in a murder with her husband. I think that she deserves to have all the airtime in the world. She deserves to be shamed. I do not care a dot about her family and what they are going through, because this is a...
I think if shame is the goal, then I think it would be very misguided for us to put it in the headlines just for that.
Especially when you're talking about issues of mental illness in 2019, these are things that we need to
And I think therefore they should be woven into the headlines, they should be woven into the conversation. The Ministry of Health therefore should be telling us what they're going to do about mental health in this country.
I agree with DM. Because there are innocent people in this. If you're talking about Arunga, who's thousands of miles away, she has a mother, she has a father, she has siblings. I think we should spare them the...
What about the justice for this child?
I think we just enjoy this
justice
kind
is
of
already being done in court. The Australians will deal with her.
So are we tossing the headline?
Far away.
Yes.
All right.
Schools crises as new intake rules cause congestion. It's very clumsy.
Even you had congestion saying it.
Yes, I felt congested.
You had gumption.
No, she had a lack of gumption. Be that as it may, I think that this headline is extremely clumsy. I think that the editor needs to go read a book, and today we want to suggest a new headline. We think that it should go as follows. School crisis, full colon. New intake rules cause congestion. I think whatever is here, as you said, is causing congestion in our mouths, and therefore we
toss it.
We
toss it. Fantastic.
So it won't win irregardless. As our president likes to say.
Irregardless is not a word, but all right.
Now, this
The
is
Star.
the headline I like. And I know I'll be fought, but I have to say what I have to say. MPs want to get rid of 47 women reps. For the first time, they're thinking, this is good.
It's a bad idea.
The biggest lie Africans were told is that inclusion and representation is the path to success.
Okay.
Look, it is tantamount to saying, because we need women reps, we are actually saying that they are disabled and cannot be elected. There are very many women in this country that can be elected. Matter of fact, 50% or more than 50% of small businesses in this country, SMEs, are owned by women. It tells you how far women have gone. So why do they need a helping hand to representation?
I am an unapologetic proponent of affirmative action. And the reason I say this is because women are excluded in governance systematically. So this is a hardware problem, and you can't expect it to go away organically. The response has to be hardware. The response has to be the law.
Okay, I think that I'm going to take a different point of view to the two of you. This is a man fighting a woman fighting a man. I think that before we even discuss this headline, whether it's good or not, can we please pass the 2/3 gender rule? I think we're working from...
I agree with you.
This doesn't even... I don't even... This doesn't
Let
make
me
sense.
ask you, whether or not you have 2/3 gender rule or whatever, you will not have more food on the table. People.
I would now like to remind our audience of the criteria that we use to weigh the headlines for you. Is this headline topical
Irregardless.
or is it speculative?
Yeah.
Is it repetitive or is it groundbreaking? And
Yeah.
finally, is the headline thoughtful
Yeah.
or
Just plain lazy.
It is groundbreaking.
According to you.
is it?
Yes.
I think it's more definitely like a clickbait headline. It is enticing you to pick it up. You want to understand what's happening.
Yes,
Yeah, it
but-
is not groundbreaking because it's not new. We have known
Yes.
that they want, and also in different platforms.
Yeah.
Even the Punguza Mzigo
Yeah.
initiative wants to do the same thing.
Yeah.
But there's a picture you want to talk about.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen
Yes.
of the Media Police Post, behold this photo on the Star
Yeah.
front page. We have the Deputy President
Yeah.
in the middle.
Yeah.
This is an awkward tableau. On his right, he
Yeah.
has Peter Munya,
Yeah.
who is the chief of the assassination committee,
Yeah.
alleged. And on his left, he has Raila Odinga, his political best friend snatcher.
Yeah.
So there's this awkward situation here. You can see Munya is looking, there's no eye contact here. Munya
Yes.
is looking to the floor,
Yeah.
Raila is looking to the sky, and
Yes.
the DP is looking into the horizon.
But
then
there's
look-
something-
look-
there's something
let-
wrong.
so let me tell you, there's
There's
something
something
wrong. And this was very intentional.
Yeah.
They placed the stately seat of the DP
In the middle.
in the middle,
As they should.
but they knew it is lower. The person on the right, Peter Munya, on the left, Raila Odinga. DP was looking at them like this,
He looks very short.
Yes,
you know.
He
And let
doesn't
me
look
tell you,
stately in
It's
that
power
seat.
in
play.
the things
and
of
it
power,
was-
it's in the things of the structure of power. You know, first the person in charge, the highest person there, must be looking at people like, hey, Raila, what were you saying? Munya, you.
But now
no,
it's
no,
the
no, no.
opposite. He's looking
Yeah.
up to
Now he's
them.
looking up to them
Yeah.
like brothers.
Anyway,
like bigger
Very
brothers.
interesting. So is this our winning headline?
No.
So we have
yes.
no winning headlines. We'll move on to the political pieces that we call
Cartoons.
cartoons in this country. And just
Yeah.
like the headlines, we have
Yeah.
a three-part criteria that we use to break them down.
Mm.
For you, we ask ourselves, is it humorous or is it dry? Is it satirical or is it pessimistic?
Yeah.
Is the cartoon effective or is it just plain lazy?
Oh my
You guys,
God.
I think Gano is back. He took a little vacation.
I think he's back.
Yeah.
But before we analyze it, let's describe it. Caricature of Raila Odinga, right? And he's on with he's playing one side of PlayStation. His audience includes the Prince Uhuru Kenyatta and his crown. Next to him is Kalonzo Musyoka with a chameleon stand. Because the guy changes,
He's
you never
licking
know.
the screen.
Yeah, he's licking the screen. And then Musalia Mudavadi, right? On the right is caricature of the color singer himself, William RUTO. I don't know who's standing next to him, but I suspect it's Chiloba. Yeah, he has ears like mine
And glasses.
and glasses.
And they're playing a video game.
And they're playing a video game. So it's a play election, PlayStation,
2022,
play
yeah.
election 2022. And part of the options on the PlayStation is rigging. The other one is post-election violence. The other one is coalition handshake and bribery.
Bribery.
So in PlayStation, you have player 1, player 2.
Yeah, so you choose your player, I
Yes.
choose my player, and we see who's gonna win.
Yes.
So
I
you pick
think
your rigging,
yes.
I pick my
S-
bribery.
bribery.
Who's gonna win?
You
You pick your post-election
violence,
violence, I choose my coalition government.
government. Yes.
This is a good contender. It's very humorous.
It's a good cartoon.
It's satirical and it's effective.
But then you see there is an icon for more. So there are more options there.
That's true.
Yeah, so I don't know that the next option is assassination.
So we can, oh my goodness, so we can put that in the parking bay and
Yes.
look at the next cartoon in the Daily Nation.
Yes.
You want to give us a description of that, Turan?
Yes, absolutely. Oh my God, it's a sunset. Anyway, caricature of Raila Odinga, Uhuru Kenyatta, and Raphael Tuju sitting on a bench. Now, behind the bench is a convergence of hands. Tuju and Raila are shaking hands.
Another handshake, yeah.
In the background is a sunset of Jubilee. Jubilee is done. It's dead. It's dying. Sunset.
Sunset.
But on the far right is a fuming William RUTO.
He's lurking in the background.
Like in the background, and with his yellow tie, meaning he has already switched sides, got nothing to do with Jubilee. And I think the context of this is a tweet he put out on Sunday, attacking Raphael Tuju.
He said, so our democracy is so liberal that the SG of a ruling party, that's Secretary General, has become the chief strategist of the opposition. Majabu.
You know,
I think it's a great cartoon.
It's a great cartoon.
Yeah.
But, I mean, let me ask you guys, do you think William RUTO will resign? Should it?
I don't think so.
I don't think
No.
so.
Should it?
He's sitting
He's not
pretty,
a quitter,
yeah.
I don't think.
I think
And he
today
shouldn't.
the cartoons are looking good.
Very good.
And
Finally.
Finally,
Ozone of the Star.
Ozone of the Star. Caricature of rapper Tuju,
a very good
a
one.
very good one, wearing a Jubilee shirt and
On top of a
suit. And next to him is a tweeting away William Ruto, right? And the caption there is, he is poisoning the party. Jubilee's red alert.
Yeah.
So I think the context of this is first red alert because it's Jubilee, but second, there has been something bad with our meat. People are putting stuff.
Yeah, there was an expose that aired yesterday, I believe, talking about the ongoing meat poisoning crisis.
Yes.
And I think that's what he's trying to bring together.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's bad. I think it's clever.
Yeah, I think what we were saying is if we were to compare Dula's drawing of Tuju and Ozone's, I think we prefer...
Yes, the caricature of Tuju is fantastic.
it's
It's hilarious. He has one big solid tooth.
Yeah.
his
with
long
droopy-
sideburns.
It's very funny.
It's very funny.
Today I vote for Ozone
But then-
for the winning headline.
But then here is also what Ozone is saying, and I think it's very clever. You see the way you apply some red substance to meat to make it look fresh and it can last for days. That is exactly what DP is saying. That Tuju is applying red stuff to Jubilee, even if it's losing its red.
Okay,
Alright,
my
that's an
interpretation of this,
interpretation.
though, is that the DP's anger is directed to a softer punching bag. I mean, he's projecting anger that he should have towards somebody else.
So we're tossing the Daily
His
Nation,
boss.
is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and then we're left with the Standard.
Yeah.
Who's the Standard? Gado?
Kado, this is fantastic.
It's fantastic, but I prefer Ozone's to it. Ozone's is...
What say you?
I like the PlayStation.
Be that as it may, I'm going to agree with DM and go with
It's
Ozone.
because you lack,
Ozone
Shock and horror.
because
gives us the winning
you
headline
lack gumption.
on the Star. We'll now move on to 2M's favorite segment. Take it away, 2M.
And now our final thought. Beautiful story. Beautiful. Inspired by a short story entitled Weight of Whispers by Yvonne Adhiambo Owuor. June, you want to give us a summary?
Yeah, sure. So this book was initially published in the Kwani magazine, but it went on to be awarded the Kane Prize for African Writing in 2003. Just 1 year after Binyavanga had won.
Yeah.
So I think we mentioned this yesterday, how after winning, Binyavanga used the winnings to start Kwani.
Yes.
Then Owuor published her story in Kwani,
Yes.
which then went on to win the Kane Prize
Full
the year
circle,
after. Yeah,
huh?
full circle, fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Weight of Whispers tells the story of Bonbon, how do you say?
Kuseremane.
Yes, his mother, his sister, and his fiance.
Yes.
After they escape Rwanda, just after the genocide breaks out.
Yes.
So they are considered Rwandan royalty, or that is what we're told in the story.
Right.
And they are accustomed to the finer things in life.
Yeah.
So they're unprepared for the impact that genocide will have on their lavish lifestyle. They flee to Kenya, believing that it will be a pit stop on their way to Europe.
Yeah.
But they soon realize that they're on their own.
Yeah.
That this name, the family name that they have, doesn't carry as much weight as it used to, and that it means little to nothing, and the people who they thought would carry them through this turbulence are no longer there for them.
Yes.
And reality sets in when they have to sneak out of the Nairobi Hilton Hotel and without paying their bill.
Yes.
And then they have to go live in a place that
In
is
River
not...
Road.
Can they go live in River Road? Yes,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
So communication from those people who they once relied on slowly dies away, and Kuseremane is burdened with having to take care of his family.
Yeah.
Eventually, his sister and his wife end up prostituting themselves in the hopes of getting papers to go to Canada to seek asylum.
Yeah.
His sister tragically dies when she gives birth. His mother also dies of a stroke just 1 day before they were going to move to Canada. And his fiance takes off for Canada, hoping that Bonbon will later follow on behind him. But in the end, Bonbon, the main protagonist, resigns himself to the fact that exile in Kenya will be his new second life.
And second start.
And second start, because he can't bear to leave his family behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's dead from what a story.
What a sad story.
It is very sad.
And if you are the type to yap about revolutions, or you follow activists who are paid kibarua by their muzungus, then this is your book. And the reason I'm saying this is because of this. Roger, who's his butler, and I'm saying his butler because he was not a houseboy, when he found Bon having Don Perignon, right, and life was good and they were dancing about, do you know what Roger told him? He said, they're coming.
Yeah.
And Bonbon and his families and the 3 women in his life had very few moments to take up all their belongings. $3,700 in cash, board a flight to Nairobi, and that's all they had.
Yeah.
They thought that they're going to just have 3 weeks and then fly back to Europe and life will be the same. And that is the picture of revolutions. In Lebanon, women left chicken baking in their ovens and they left. And they told their children, it's okay, next week we'll be back.
Yeah.
In Cuba, the same thing. Look, people don't realize that African presidents, some of them in Liberia, in Uganda, prime ministers in Somalia, and presidents in South Sudan had their homes in Kenya before they ascended to power in their countries. Why? Because their countries were in turmoil. Again, if you think and you're the type that wants referendums, just go to YouTube and look what happened in Liberia, and then you get your answer.
Referendums or revolutions?
Revolutions.
Revolutions. They say referendums.
You did.
Revolutions.
And I agree with you, and I think that's one of the reasons, especially for us Africans, that this book is very heavy. I read it back in 2012, and I had this subconscious heaviness of heart for many days. I mean, these are things that we observe in our continent and in our region. Yvonne Adhiambo War is one of my favorite writers.
Beautiful.
Stylistically, she's amazing. This book, she manages to balance like a beautiful language and lyrical imagery with such a heavy melancholy and
Depressing.
burdening, depressing theme.
Yes.
I came out feeling conflicted because we can make a strong deduction in this book that the protagonist, Boniface, and his family contributed or played a part in the genocide. They were genocidaires. But we also come out feeling sympathy for them. You know, from their life in the Hilton down to River Road. Did you guys ever read the Major Mwangi books from the 1970s down River Road? Anyway, so we come from the Hilton, the best hotel then, and then they descend to a life of despondency, and then we also see these other sub-themes in the book, like police brutality,
corruption,
evil of man,
yes, and the flaws in our system. They have to prostitute themselves at immigration, and it just goes downhill from there. But then another heavy theme, which I think is our main theme, is the evil of human beings. Boniface, going back again to the protagonist, who is also a perpetrator of genocide, from deduction, he says himself in the book, there is a necessity of oblation or sacrifice of men by men to men. And I read this as a kind of both a confession and a validation of whatever actions that he did back home. And I compared this book to Hannah Arendt's Banality of Evil, or the phrase Banality of Evil in Eichmann in Jerusalem. And I've lost my train of thought.
It's okay. You know, I know exactly where you're going.
My train of thought has arrived in the station again. Arendt's book was an academic and journalistic observation of the banality of evil in a different setting. But this one personalizes it and brings it to a very granular level, and I think that's another reason why it really hits hard as a book and as a seminal work of
and I think yesterday when we were talking about Binyavanga's story, we were comparing it to the post-colonial writers and the contemporary writers. And I think in this book you really get to she highlights the post-colonial identity struggles that we dealt with. In the book, Bonbon gives a story about how when he was arrested in Nairobi, he remembers a man from Sierra Leone who he met in the Netherlands. And he says this man was eccentric, he was crazy on the street, he was selling pornography, he was selling underwear. And then the man tells Bonbon, we Africans, we be overeducated fools. No one sees your knowing when you has no feet to stand on. Because Bonbon eventually realizes that this crazy man on the street has a master's degree in sociology.
And remember how embarrassed he was when that man approached him, because he was sitting down with his white business associates, and he was so removed from that man's experience. And then
and
fast
for me,
forward,
it highlights two things. It highlights the Kusaramane privilege, you know, that they come to Kenya and they thought that this name was going to carry them through this struggle, and then it doesn't end up doing it.
Yeah.
But then he also thought that that name and that privilege that he came from would help him. So he conversely looks at this man he met in Sierra Leone who had this degree. He was told by the white man, if you get a degree, you will get a job, you will get wealth, you will get success. And so these things that we thought that would take us in one direction end up being worthless. They're worthless things. So it brings back this post-colonial identity struggle that we deal with. And I think it's really interesting that we saw that in yesterday's book, and we're seeing it again in today's book.
An extension of that post-colonial experience. I want to slightly go back to the colonial experience. And what this story teaches me is that there's a difference in colonial experience, but there's a singular objective of humanity. Let me explain it this way. Colonial experience in French colonized countries, and where those Africans had French tendencies, wearing nice clothes. Assimilated. Now, Bon Kesurumani talks about his mother. They had bangle rings, nice rings,
sapphire earrings, diamond necklaces,
heirlooms.
You know, and they even had to sell them to be able to get by. So this guy gets into a bar. It's called Balafon. You know, those nice Congolese music playing. They're having French cognac. And they come, and he had helped this guy back in Rwanda with a million franc deal. It's a lot of money back then. And he expected this guy to help him, right? Now he's speaking to this guy in a bar and says, "Oh, I just need to borrow $5,000, okay, so just to get by, and then I'll return it once things settle." After 2 hours, now he's having a Tusker. His friends are having French cognac. The guy says, "And who are you again?" And the guy goes, now Bon goes to dance with a girl on the dance floor, and as soon as he's done, he goes to the table, and his friends have gone. This guy is from Rwanda. He's got called Michelle's and the Louis and all that. So he goes and asks the bouncer, "Where are these guys gone?" "Oh, so they just left in their blue Mercedes. They have gone to Carnival."
And the point of that story was
Point of that story is this: the indignity, the roughness he was treated with, and he was treated by Kenyans, is what he found with his own people, the people who he helped. Right?
The common denominator there is what?
It's when it's
money.
It's all money. When it's all said and done, when you lose your title, when you lose your wealth, when you lose your privilege, human beings will treat you the same.
I think I can summarize what you're saying into the theme of exile that comes in the book, and I will summarize it with a quote.
Yes.
In exile, we lower our heads so that we do not see the mirror of another's eyes what we suspect. That our precarious existence rests entirely on the whim of another's tolerance of our presence.
Wow.
Yeah.
And with that profound and poignant quote, we have come to the end of Winning Headlines today.
Yeah.
We had a winning cartoon from the start, and we had no winning headline. Have a good evening. We will see you tomorrow.